Alright guys, welcome back to another installment of Bible Calendar Basics. So in this video, we'll be covering the circuit of the sun, moon, and stars, and we'll be going into more detail as to why exactly the moon falls behind the sun by 10 days and just the whole accounting of the number of days in a year for all the luminaries. All right. Okay, so in the story of Noah, when the flood begins, there's a description in there where it says that, when the flood happened, the windows of heaven were open. And it makes perfect sense that the windows, the heavens would have windows that open and close, because on the second day of the week, it said that God created a firmament in the midst of the waters to separate the waters below from the waters above. Okay, so essentially we have this dome-like structure, okay, and we have the waters in here below, and then we have the waters above. And then whatever the nature of these windows, they apparently open and close. Okay, so then, it would make sense then that the sun, moon, and stars would also have their own windows that they enter and exit from. Respectively, they would be found in the east and in the west. So when we look at the number of our months here, okay, we already know, yes, 12 months. But, this stuff actually goes deeper than just, there are just 12 months in a year. Okay, there are 12 months in a year because there are 6 openings in the east and the west that the sun, moon, and stars enter and exit from. So we'll write that out. All right, and out of the 6, how do we know which ones? How do we know which one the luminaries exit and enter from first? Well, they would be the 4th gate. And why is that? Because on the 4th day of the week is when God created the luminaries. So when we look at our whiteboard here, okay, this is the first year, first month, okay, and then on the first day of the year, which is the 4th day of the week, the sun, moon, and stars were created. So therefore, that is why they come forth from the 4th portal or window first. Okay, and this also would explain why when the sun goes below the horizon, why we are not able to continuously keep track of the sun any longer, because there's apparently a portal or door that opens up that we have no access to, and we just don't see it until the following morning. And the same logic then would be applied for the sun, moon, and stars. All right? So now, what ends up happening, they go from the east to the west, and then they go to 5, and then to 6 here. All right? So notice they started here in 4, and the 4th day, then the 5th day, and then the 6th day. But then, interestingly enough, why are there not 7 gates? Why are there only 6? That is because the first 6 days are work, the 7th you rest, right? This is getting, you know, this is going to have more importance later on in the video. But essentially, for the 7th time, or the 7th day, okay, the sun, moon, and stars would just go back here. All right, but to actually clarify better before I continue, okay, there are only 6 here because 6 and 6 make 12. Therefore, they influence and give us the 12 months of the year. All right. So for the 7th day, they go to the 6th gate, to the 5th, to the 4th, and then to the 3rd, the 2nd, to the 1st, and then all the way back down to the 4th. So what ends up happening here is this. Okay, so let me get another marker here to help us out. All right. 4, 5, 6, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so the numbers in black represent the portals or the gates that the luminaries enter and exit from. Okay, the red represents the days of the sun. And then we have the days of the moon here. Okay, so this is what it would look like. Now, the reason why I have the days of the moon alternating 2930, 2930 is because, going back to our other whiteboard here, the moon is known as a great light. And the only phase of the moon which would demonstrate it being a great light is when the moon is full. The other 3 phases of the moon, like the half moon, sliver crescent, and the empty moon or black moon, they would not demonstrate to us that the moon is a great light. Okay? It's lesser light compared to the sun, but in its own, on its own, only the full moon phase would demonstrate the moon being a great light. So here is the first month of the first year of the world. So here's the full moon on the first day of the year, 4th day of the week. 29 days later, okay, brings us to a second full moon. And 13 days before that is the sliver crescent. And then you count 16 days. That brings you back to the full moon. Okay, so the moon is following this pattern here. So from full moon to full moon, the pattern is 2930. And then from full moon to new moon, okay, the pattern is 16, 13, and then to go from the new moon back to the full moon would be 17 and 13. All right. And if we went from, oh man, new moon to new moon, sorry guys, the pattern would be 30, 29. Alright, you guys can chart this out for yourselves. Or if not, I'll leave my email in the description box below, and you guys can send me an email requesting the calendar files I have, and I will gladly email them to you so you can see for yourselves what I'm talking about. You can view my files that I have of this. So moving forward, we're going to erase this part now. And we'll move into the next phase here. Alright, so what we're going to do here, we're going to subtract the days of the sun from the days of the moon. Okay? So then 30 minus 29, okay, gives us 1. This would be 0. Here is 1. This is 0. This is 1. This is 0. 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0. Okay, so we have here a total of 3 days, and here 3 days. Okay. At the end of the year, the sun has a total of 360 days, while the moon has a total of 354 days. Okay? So the moon here is apparently behind 6 days. Okay? But now this 4 days right here, it's important that we understand that this 4 only comes from the it comes from the 4 seasonal days, okay? Found at the 3rd, 6th, 9th, and 12th months. So in reality, the moon would have, at the moment, 350 days. Okay? Meaning that the sun, okay, would have an overplus of 6 days. This is exactly what we read in the book of Enoch, that it has the phrase that the sun has an overplus of 6 days. So here are the sun's actual days. and then it has this overplus of 6 days. Okay? And keep in mind, okay, as we demonstrated up here, the moon has 350 actual days. Alright, you guys following so far? And then, in another part of the book of Enoch, okay, it also says that the sun, is ahead of the moon by 10 days, okay, and this is still true. None of this stuff contradicts itself for each other, okay, because at the end of the year, okay, we'll write this out again. The sun has 360 actual days, whereas the moon has 350 actual days. And as we proved here, okay, the sun currently has an overplus of 6 days. Alright? So we know then that Enoch is not telling us that the moon falls behind the sun by 10 days because the sun has these 10 overplus days. That's not what he's saying. Okay? The moon, he's saying, it just falls behind the sun 10 days. Why does this happen? Well, in Enoch, we also read that the moon alters its course at certain times of the year. And going back to our chart here, we see these 6 different places where the moon fell behind the sun already 6 days. That's why the sun has this overplus. So how do we find the other 4 days? Okay, well, because again, we have 4 seasons, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? So that would mean that we would make this here a 1, we would make this a 1, 1, and a 1. So what would that do to our figures now? Okay. So 31 minus 29 instead of 1, okay, becomes 2. 31 minus 30 instead of 0 becomes 1. This becomes 2. And this becomes 1. Okay, so now we have 1, 0, 2, 0, 1, 1 for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. Okay? 5 days. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here are the 10 days. Okay? So we gained 1, 2, 3, 4 days. Plus 4, right? That would mean that the sun has an overplus now of, you guessed it, 10 days. Okay? Because once we take into account once we add the seasonal days to the sun, all right, and to the moon. So what should I use to represent that? Well, actually, then these numbers here convert as follows. 364 And then 354. And yet the sun still has this overplus of 10 days. Okay? So the moon is still behind the sun 10 days in both cases here. Alright? And in like fashion, the sun in both cases still has this overplus of 10 days. So what we end up doing now is we subtract 10 from here and we add 10 to the moon. And now our new figures are as follows. $364, $364. Okay? So this is why Enoch heavily emphasizes in saying that the luminaries complete the year with perfect justice in 364 days. And it's important to understand that overplus means extra. It does not mean, Enoch is not talking about a difference here. Okay, overplus simply means extra. So it would be incorrect to, if we're talking about a difference here, then, one could easily make the mistake and say, oh, the sun has 370 days, like actual days, but really that's not the case. It just has this overplus of 10, and okay, we demonstrated here in both cases that the moon falls behind the sun 10 days, and that the sun has the overplus of 10 days in both cases. When we subtract the overplus from the sun and add them to the moon, both the sun and moon complete the year, the end of the year, every year, 364 days. Really what we're learning here is just basic accounting. And interestingly enough, our word calendar is Latin, comes from the word calendarium, which also means an accounting book. Okay? Because the Roman system took accounts at the first month of, or first day of each month. Okay? So they settled accounts on those days. And it makes sense. Okay? You want to begin the new month fresh, so you close all accounts, make sure everything is settled, and then you can start fresh for the next month. And how much more sense would that make for the year? Before you start off the new year, well, let's take an account of the days of the sun, moon, and stars. Once their accounts have been settled, we can close that year and start the year off fresh. Okay, now going back to our whiteboard calendar here. So remember, this is the first year here, okay? And we see 2 double full moons. Now this will not occur until the 3rd year and the 6th year. Okay, so for the 1st, 3rd, and 6 years, or excuse me, for the 1st, the 4th, and the 7th years, okay, we will not see these double moons occurring. All right. Um, and as far as the um, that actually makes sense because for the first, fourth, seventh, and 10th months, okay, interestingly enough, that is also when uh, this pattern and the calendar can be seen, okay? This happens for the first, fourth, seventh, and 10th months. So naturally, you would expect that in the first, the fourth, and the seventh year, that you would see this double moon phase. And again, guys, if you want more details of this, I have calendar files that I am more than willing to email you guys so you can look at it and study it more closely on your own. Now, earlier in the video, I said that, okay, there are the 6 gates in the east and 6 in the west, and they only go up to 6 because 6 and 6 is 12, and they're, 12 months in the year. Now, the other significance of the number 6, all right, I'll touch on that more in another video, but that would cover the Shemitah years, okay, or the years of release, the years of the 7 years, the years of 7. Because in the Bible we read that, like, slave will work for 6 years and then in the 7th year he'll go free, all right, and um, in another video, I'll go more into detail in how that 6-year cycle plays out um, for the priests, the priestly order found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and also they're mentioned in First Chronicles 23 and 24. But yeah, so just quickly, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you have this 7th year here. All right, so here is the first year. You have the double full moons. Okay, that will occur here, here, and here. Okay, which means that at the end of the third and 6th years, we would expect to see a full moon. Okay, we would expect to see a double full moon. Okay, at we would expect to see a double full moon in the 12 months of these respective years. So there would be a double full moon in the first month of the first, fourth, and 7th years, respectively. And we would also see double moons on the 12th month, okay, in the 3rd and 6th years, respectively. So anyways, guys, that's it for this video. I'll leave my email in the description box. And if you want those calendar files, please email me.